Hey guys, how's it going? I wanted to hop on here and show you guys a video of things that I bet you didn't know that you could propagate right now that you should be propagating. These are all things that I have in my garden that I think a lot of you will probably have in your garden that you may not know that you can actually propagate and get a bunch of free plants. A lot of these propagate really easily. Some of them take a little bit of time, but most of them, they're ready to go almost immediately, like about a month's time. So my time is important, your time is important. Let's jump into it. I do want to say really quickly, the audio is about to change in this video and I am so sorry. It's only going to be a couple minutes of bad audio. I want to pre-apologize for that. So the only things that you are going to need to do this is a Ziploc baggie with a little bit of water in it. You're going to need some pruners, and then you also need seed trays. These are my favorite ones. These are from Bootstrap Farmer. They come in an array of colors. I specifically, when propagating, like to use these really large ones, something big, because I'm going to put multiple pieces of my propagation in one of these containers. So today's episode is sponsored by Bootstrap Farmer, so thank you, Bootstrap Farmer, for your continued support on my channel. These are the hands down best seed trays. They are made here in the USA by a small company. I absolutely love them. I've been using them for about 4 years now in my garden, and I've had many of these pieces for just that long. They last a lifetime. They're absolutely amazing. So get yourself some Bootstrap seed trays. I will put the link to these in the description down below. And then you are also going to need some type of tray. So this is also from Bootstrap Farmer. And then I also have this insert from Bootstrap Farmer, which is really nice because these large ones fit right in here. And I don't have to worry about any of these teetering around when I am moving my trays. And it also makes bottom watering extremely easy. I bottom water all of my trays. You pull this out, fill the bottom with water, and you're good to go. Let's jump into propagating and which plants I plan to do today. So if you don't want to stick around for the entire video, I'm going to go over my list right now. We will also pop it up on the screen. The list of plants that I will be propagating today: cosmos, zinnias, salvia, hydrangeas, roses, lavender, nepeta, and verbena. I've specifically chosen those ones because those are ones that I think are uncommon, that people don't know that they can propagate, that are very easy to propagate in the garden. Now there's some tips and tricks for each one of these, so I suggest sticking around and watching the entire video. So let's jump into it with the first one, cosmos. So cosmos really don't want to dry out at all, so you want to make sure that you're putting them in a Ziploc bag. That's why I recommended this with a little bit of water in here. And all you're going to do is you're going to come in, you're going to take a little cutting from your cosmos. It works best if you get a side shoot, and then you also want to completely defoliate these, leaving just a little tiny bit at the top. Pop all this off immediately. So you have just a little teeny tiny piece of a cosmo, and then you're gonna put this in your Ziploc baggie. Go ahead and get as many pieces as you want, and then we're gonna go ahead and put this in some soil. So now that I have my cosmos in my bag, I'm actually gonna go around and I'm gonna grab all of my cuttings from all of my plants. And then I'll show you guys what to do with them after you have them in your bag. You don't have to go around and collect all of these plants all at once. You could just be doing cosmos. Put as many cuttings as you would like in your Ziploc baggie. It's best to keep it a small little cutting, some stem, just below a set of leaves, and then you go ahead, keep it in here, and then we'll be putting it in some soil, and there are some important things that you need to know. So let's go collect the rest of the cuttings that I would like to collect, and I'm just gonna go ahead and pop all of them in the exact same bag. Roses are another really good one to propagate. I have this one that I have in a standard form, and I would really love to have it in a shrub form, so I'm gonna take a cutting from it. Roses do not propagate quickly. They're very slow to propagate, but while they're actively growing, this is a really good time to take some cuttings from it. You just want to make sure that you're taking a cutting from where it is green, so that would be this year's growth, not last year's growth. Last year's growth is going to be a bit more brown, and you want to stay away from that. So highly recommend doing some roses. It's a great way to get another free rose. It just takes a while. And the best part about having a rose that you took from cutting is going to be that it's going to be on its own root, meaning that it's going to have its own roots. A lot of roses come grafted, meaning that they have a rootstock of something else, and then the top is the plant that you want. What happens if a frost comes and kills your plant all the way back and new shoots come from the ground? You think you're getting your rose back, but what'll come back is typically a red rose, and that's a totally different variety. So this is going to guarantee that if your plant dies all the way back, or a deer comes and eats it all the way back, that what's going to come up is going to be the exact same rose variety. So that's why I like taking cuttings from roses. I've done it for a couple of my roses that I have on the property. It's very simple. I have unfortunately already sheared this one back. I wish that I had waited a little bit longer, because then I could have propagated much easier, and I actually would have had all of my cutting pieces. I didn't even think about it. So let's make a cut on this one, and we're just gonna do 2 from this. That's all I want. One is going to be a fail safe. So when we make a cut on a rose, what we're looking for is to get a couple inches of growth off of this. So I want to cut all the way back to about this point here. You want to have a few inches. You also want to cut right above a leaf set. So everywhere that there's a set of leaves is where a branch could possibly come out. So I'm going to leave 2 sets of leaves on this, but we're going to cut back all the way down right above the 4th one. So I'm going to cut just below this set of leaves above this one that's back here. So we're just going to come in, cut that off, and here's my cutting. And one more time, you want to look for something about a pencil thickness. This one's a little bit small, but this is the one I am going to take from. So I've got a set of leaves here, a set of leaves here, and then I have this set of leaves here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut below, I'm going to cut right here. I'm going to cut right above that set of leaves. And what that's going to do is a branch is now going to come out from this set of leaves right here. It's going to come out this way, which is where I do want a branch to come. If I'd cut lower, the next set of leaves is inside here, and this branch would have gone into the plant, which we don't want. So make sure that when we're cutting healthy pieces. Now that I have my cutting right here, I need to do one more thing, and I need to remove a bunch of this foliar growth. So we're going to take off about half of it, and then I'm going to cut these leaves in half. And this is what you want your cutting to look like. Just enough to keep the stem alive and photosynthesize, but not enough that it pulls all the energy and kills your plant. And I'll do the same thing for this. I'm going to remove this lower set right here. And then I'm going to cut these back to just leaving just a couple set of leaves. Cut those leaves in half. And then I am going to take off all of these thorns because I don't want to deal with potting it up with all of the thorns because they are pretty spiky. All you do to pop off thorns is literally just push it over to the side and the thorns pop off. Now that I've removed all these thorns, into the Ziploc bag it goes. Lavender is another really great one to propagate. It smells good, it's a beautiful plant, and then you get to have some lavender inside your house for just a little bit. So I like to propagate lavender. I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut off one big piece, and then I'll show you guys close up how I dissect that one piece and show you guys what not to cut, what to cut, where to cut, how to cut, all the things. So I'm just going to cut one piece off nice and low, just like this, and I'll show you guys up close. So when you've chosen your lavender piece that you want to take cuttings from, you want to make sure that you're taking from this year's growth, not last year's growth. That's pretty important. There's a few of these plants that I'm talking about, roses, lavender, that you need to cut into this year's growth. It's very, very important, otherwise it won't root. So this year's growth is going to be green and it's going to be beautiful, it's going to be pliable. Last year's growth is going to be brown and woody and not so pliable without cracking. So if it is this brown color, stay away from it. Don't cut into that. That is going to ruin your cuttings. You're not going to get anything. So what you want to do, you want to come through. We're going to take our cutting right above a set of leaves. We've got that. I'm going to cut off this bloom. We don't want that. And then I'm going to defoliate, because defoliating is very important when you're taking cuttings. Your cuttings cannot survive with this much growth on it. It can't keep all of this alive. So we're going to cut these leaves in half, and then I'm stuck with this. This is still too much. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to cut this above a set of leaves, and I'm going to cut this above a set of leaves. That is probably the maximum amount you want for a cutting this size. So just remember, less is more when it comes to your foliar growth on your cuttings. And we will go ahead and repeat that process, defoliating all of the lower, cutting off the top, and removing some of the foliar growth that is still here. Less is more. The next one that I want to be taking cuttings from is hydrangeas. They root so easy. I highly recommend growing hydrangeas from cutting. I've done it with one of my hydrangeas. It took so easy. It's incredibly fast. So what you're looking for here is you're looking for new growth, this year's growth. So this right here is last year's growth. It's this dark woody cane. And then from that, I actually ended up cutting right here at this little point, and then it shot out 3 new branches. And those 3 new branches are where you want to cut from. It is the most pliable. It hasn't totally hardened up yet. There's still lots of movement in it, and that's what you want from your hydrangea. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take a piece, and I think I'm gonna cut something from the back just so I don't quite notice it so badly back here. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna cut above a set of leaves, and then we're gonna just strip off the lower leaves and throw it in some soil. So you can see on our cuttings here, this is still too much foliar growth. I'm gonna come in when I go ahead and transplant them into the soil. I'm gonna take off some more of this foliar growth, probably end up cutting that, but you can see how this is still flexible. It still has some movement to it. It hasn't fully become hard yet. And so that's what you want. You still want it to have some color inside of the stem. So right here I have salvia that actually really needs to be cut back. And this is a great time to take cuttings, is when you're about to cut some of your plants back. So I am not cutting it back today, but salvia is a lot like lavender, where I need to take a piece of it, I need to cut off the floral growth. I have this shoot right here, I have these sets of leaves here. I'm gonna cut my big leaves in half, and then here is a fabulous cutting from salvia. Salvia roots pretty quickly, so I highly recommend doing it. I probably should not have cut off the one with a bloom. Of course, I should have cut off the one that didn't have blooms, like this piece here, where the blooms have already died. But you live and learn, and I messed up, and it's fine. I still will take this piece, and this is going to be a fabulous cutting for my salvia. Nepida is another really great one. I love it in my garden. I have many different varieties of it. I've got 3 or 4 different varieties of Nepida. I think that they're beautiful. They grow, you cut them back after they set their first flush of blooms, you cut them back, it's gonna push out another set of blooms, and then you'll cut it back a third time, and you may get a third flush of blooms from these guys if your season is long enough. My season is long enough that I may get a third set of blooms from them. So I love it. This one right here, I just sheared it back. Had I been smart, I should have saved some of those, and I should have grown them from cutting. I didn't, but that's okay, because I can still go into this and I can still take some cuttings from it. So we're just gonna take a couple cuttings that are a bit long. We're gonna cut off the top of it, so that way the top doesn't continue to grow up. And then we're going to defoliate also. This is another plant that you wanna make sure that you're going into the softwood, so you wanna make sure that you're going into very fresh growth for this. Nepida is going to root pretty quickly. If you can find a bit of a thicker stem, that's best. Make sure you're getting a stem that is green, not a stem that is brown from your Nepida. It's a really beautiful plant to grow in the garden. The pollinators absolutely go wild for it. This is one that I try to get one of a longer stem on these guys, because I want to be able to shove it into my potting soil and make sure that it can go nice and deep and the roots can establish really quickly. So Nepida roots really, really easily. Highly recommend, if you have Nepida and you want more of them, Propagate, or ask a friend if you can take some of their cuttings. This next one here is Zinnias, and this one actually came up as a volunteer, and I left it. She seeded herself, she made it through the winter, she came back strong, and I love Zinnias. This one here is Oklahoma salmon, and I know it is because that's what I had in the front all last year. It's a beautiful zinnia. I love Oklahoma salmon, and I would love to have more of them in my garden this year. So zinnias propagate extremely easy, and I don't think people know that. So this is one that I'm really excited to propagate and show you guys that you can propagate it. It's really simple. All you're gonna do is you're gonna come along, take off your cutting, same thing, defoliate. The pencil width thickness, a little bit smaller, is best. And then this actually has a bud on the top of it. We want to make sure that that bud comes off. So I'm gonna get in here, snip that off right above some sets of leaves. I can see some branching happening, and then we do need to completely defoliate this. Be careful when defoliating your zinnias, because you can easily snap them, and you don't want to do that. It's actually probably best if I were to go through and cut these leaves off, and then these leaves up here I'm going to cut in half, so it has just a little bit to photosynthesize from. That's all we want with our zinnias. And I'm gonna do 2 cuttings from these guys, making sure that I am still leaving a set of leaves here. If you end up taking your zinnias down to where there's not a set of leaves below it, you're ripping off where it's gonna be able to shoot another branch from, and that whole stem won't shoot anything out. So you wanna make sure that you're leaving at least 1 set of leaves, so that way it branches out again and you get a nice full zinnia. I'm not gonna be super particular about these ones. I do wanna leave some branching, but not a crazy amount. And now last but definitely not least is Verbena. This one here is called Verbena bonariensis. I wintered this over from last year, so I'm really proud of this one that I was able to actually winter it over. It supposedly self-seeds like crazy. I didn't have a single seedling come up, for me at least, in my garden from this plant, so I'm hoping that it does self-seed a little bit. I wouldn't mind more of this. It's a very airy plant, it's very beautiful, but Verbena, all of them, propagate very easily, and this should not be an exception. So I am a bit nervous because I've never done this one before, but we're gonna go ahead and give it a try. So I'm cutting off somewhere that has a decent amount of foliar growth on it. This has very little leaves on it. There's not a whole lot going on. So I'm gonna come in, rip off all of these lower leaves. I'm going to leave 2 sets, cut off this beautiful bloom, unfortunately. And then I have 2 sets of leaves and a very, very small stem. So we're gonna give this a try this year. And I'm gonna try 2 of these, and it'll be fun to be able to report back to you guys on how well these do. But 2 sets of leaves, it doesn't feel like much, and I won't be cutting these leaves in half. If you have other verbenas that you wanna grow, most of them will have a lot more foliar growth. Rule of thumb, take off as much foliar growth as you possibly can with still keeping some of it, but leaving just enough to photosynthesize. These shouldn't be any exception. These should root beautifully, and I hope to have more of them in my garden. Well, now that I have my bag of goodies, it is time to fill up all of my Bootstrap cells with soil. I'm going in with a very good compost, preferably peat-free if you have it. I'm finishing off a bag of non-peat-free soil, and then I will be switching over to peat-free. So peat-free is best, it's better for the environment, but at the end of the day, use what you have and use what you have access to. So filling these guys up with just a little bit of soil. I'm gonna fill them up almost all the way. Once these are all filled, it's pretty straightforward about getting your plants into their container. I'm going to be doing 2 up to 4 per container. I've got my pen and my labels with me, so I pretty much know what I've got here. If you're doing 1 whole tray, you should be probably pretty good, but it is always best measure to go ahead and label your plants. So we're just gonna stick these guys in here now that we've pretty much defoliated everything. These just go in here. The biggest tip is to make sure that your cuttings do not dry out. Don't let them become dry. If they become dry, they will die. It's very, very important during the next couple of weeks to make sure that these stay moist. I will be going in with a humidity dome to make sure that these stay nice and moist. I got my humidity dome also from Bootstrap Farmer. They are the best. They're very, very sturdy. Some plants that I know that do struggle a little bit, like Salvia a little bit, these guys, especially because I took some small cuttings, I'm gonna go in with 4 of these cuttings in here, just for safety measures. I've got 4 of them in there. Should all 4 of them make it? Great. If only 2 of them make it, that's also great. That's totally fine by me. And I think I might have too many leaves on some of this. Pop off some of those. So certain things are going to grow much faster than the other. Salvia is going to be kind of slow to take off. Zinnias are going to be very quickly to take off. Roses are going to be the longest. So this is a very slow process with roses. If you want to go in with rooting hormone, that is going to help you out a ton. I do highly recommend going in with rooting hormone. It's not necessary, but it will help. Roses are going to be a 1-year process. So first year, there's not going to be any real growth happening up top, and you really want to pinch off much of the growth that you do see if you see anything happening. I want this to focus on being able to work on its roots. So it's really not going to put many roots down for a while. It's going to take a long time. You'll see some of the stems starting to die back a little bit. That's okay. Roses don't have the best success rate at being propagated, but it's able to happen. I've done it many, many times. I highly recommend it. If you've got a favorite rose that you love in your garden, you're like, oh, I'd love a couple more of them. Roses are where it is at. And then hydrangeas. I need to come in and I need to pinch off some of this foliar growth. This is still too much. These should root really quickly. I expect these to root relatively fast. Hydrangeas love water. So making sure that your hydrangeas stay well moist is very, very important the next couple months. You really want to make sure that these don't dry out. Otherwise, they will die really quickly. I just cut my foliar growth in half. Pretty straightforward. I have lavender. I've got my Nepida right here. These ones, I'm not 100% certain they will make it. These are some pretty thin stems, but it's still worth a go on these, I think. I think that these guys should do what they're supposed to do. It doesn't always work. It's always best to do a couple cuttings per container if you're a little skeptical about it. So like lavender, they root really, really easily. I'm going to expect quite a large success rate on these guys. I don't expect them to not grow. Things like the Nepida, they root pretty easily, but those ones are small. So I'm going to expect that one of those dies. Cosmos, very, very easy. You'll probably have like a 80% success rate with Cosmos. Very, very easy plant to propagate. And then you get tons more. I only did 2 Cosmos because I already have a tray growing inside my house, and I don't need too many more, but what's 2 more? So now that my cuttings are all done, it's very important that I go ahead and I water these guys. Very, very important. Water them, do not forget, throw a humidity dome over them. If you don't have a humidity dome, use a Ziploc baggie. I'm sure that you could find a gallon size, or if your containers are small enough that you can fit one of these over them. Don't let them dry out. I'm gonna repeat that a million times because that is so important for the success. You only wanna leave that on there until root growth starts to happen. So if you can pull on it and they come out, there's no root growth. If you can give it a tug and you can feel some resistance, there's root growth happening, and it's time to take the humidity dome off of them. So these are all gonna grow roots at different times. Zinnias, Cosmos, they're gonna be extremely quick. Hydrangeas are gonna be pretty quick. The rest of them are going to be medium growers. The roses are going to be extremely slow. But it is worth it because now I will have 2 free roses that I did not have to pay $50 per rose next year. They'll still be small next year, but in 2 years, they're gonna be big and beautiful, and honestly, it's well worth saving the money if I can grow some ones that I already have that I want more of. I can grow them from cutting. It's worth it. So that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Thank you so much for visiting your garden. I hope you learned a thing or two, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.